In the arid expanse of Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the sun paints the desert in hues of gold and shadow, a Hollywood titan lived out his final days far from the silver screen's glare. Jean Hackman, a name synonymous with cinematic brilliance, think the French Connection's gritty streets, Superman's soaring skies, or Unforgiven's dusty redemption, had traded the roar of applause for the whisper of sagebrush winds. At 94, he'd become a ghost of his former self, a recluse in a sprawling estate nestled against the Sangre de Cristo foothills, sharing his twilight with his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Together, they'd built a sanctuary of solitude, a world where the only spotlight was the morning sun spilling over their garden. But on a crisp February day in 2025, that sanctuary turned into a crypt. Local police, responding to a neighbor's worried call, arrived to find Jane and Betsy lifeless, their bodies discovered under circumstances that defied explanation. The scene yielded no blood, no broken glass, no signs of a scuffle, just two green cell phones gleaming on a coffee table, two bottles of prescription pills, and a lone Tylenol container, all mute witnesses to an enigma. What began as a routine check spiraled into a mystery that would soon draw the FBI's shadow over Santa Fe, hinting at secrets too vast for a small desert town to contain. Jean Hackman's days had followed a rhythm as steady as the ticking of a grandfather clock. Each morning he'd rise with the dawn, brew a pot of Earl Grey, and settle into a sunroom chair, gazing at the cacti he'd tended with Betsy. He'd once pedaled his bicycle along Santa Fe's winding roads, a familiar figure to locals, his silver hair catching the light. But in recent weeks, that routine had frayed. Neighbors noticed his absences. Fewer rides, fewer waves. Mrs. Elena Ortiz, who lived a quarter-mile down the dirt lane, recalled seeing him drive his old Jeep in mid-February, his frame hunched, his eyes distant. He looked frail, she'd later tell police, like the wind could carry him away. At the corner store, cashier Tomas Rivera remembered Jean's last visit. He bought a newspaper and a pack of gum, same as always. Thinner, sure, but he still cracked a joke about the weather. Yet the mail carrier, Javier Cruz, painted a darker picture. His mailbox was stuffed days' worth of letters piling up. That wasn't like him. He'd always grab the mail by noon. The gardener, too, had seen the estate's stillness, deep indoors locked tight, lights glowing through curtains but no sign of life. To all who knew him, Jean seemed to be fading, a legend dimming quietly into the desert night. Then came the discovery. On February 17th, police found Jean sprawled on the living room floor, his face frozen in a rictus of terror, and Betsy crumpled in the bathroom, her fingers clawing at the tiles as if she'd fought to escape something unseen. The ordinary had shattered, and questions clawed their way to the surface. Had Jean sensed his end? Had Betsy? Or had something or someone slipped into their haven, turning peace into panic? Death should have silenced the estate, but it didn't. GPS data from Jean's phone told a chilling tale. On February 18th and 20th days, after his heart had stilled, the device left the property. Twice it traced a 100-mile arc to a gas station in Loretto, lingered briefly, then vanished from the grid. Who held it? Why? Traffic cameras offered a glimpse. A black truck, sleek and unmarked, rolling up to the estate at precise moments, its license plate a blur, its existence untraceable. The FBI, now leading the probe, scoured databases but found no match. It was a phantom, a shadow moving through a world of records and light. Inside the estate, more riddles emerged. The security system, state-of-the-art, wired to catch every flicker, had gone dark for 48 hours, from February 17th to 19th, before humming back to life. No forced entry, no smudged prints, just a deliberate blackout. Then beneath a sofa cushion, agents found a titanium iPhone 15 Pro Max, unregistered, alien to Jean and Betsy. Its SIM card held 3 calls from an unknown number, each paired with a whispered message. "Are you ready?" After Jean's death, the phone wiped itself clean, a digital ghost erasing its tracks. Someone had returned, not to grieve, but to hunt. The truck, the phone, the disabled cameras, they wove a tapestry of intent. Had they found their prize? Or had they left empty-handed, the estate still guarding its secrets? The FBI's presence only thickened the fog, their silence fueling whispers of a cover-up stretching beyond Santa Fe. Jean Hackman's pacemaker was a silent chronicler, and its data screamed what the scene could not. At 7 p.m. on February 16th, his heart rate surged from a resting 60 beats per minute to a frantic 140, a pace no 94-year-old should sustain. For 4 agonizing hours it pounded, as if he'd faced a nightmare made flesh, until it flatlined at 2:43 a.m. on the 17th. This wasn't a heart attack's chaos, no erratic flutters, no slow decline, just relentless terror. Security footage showed nothing. No intruders, no movement. Just Jean alone in the living room, Betsy absent from the frame. Yet her body told its own story, found in the bathroom, sprawled as if she'd crawled toward freedom. Were they separated by chance or design? Jean's twisted expression suggested he'd seen something unspeakable, but the house held no clues. No shattered windows, no footprints in the dust. What could terrify a man who'd faced down villains on screen? A man who'd lived through Hollywood storms? Theories swirled. Had he glimpsed a truth too vast to bear? Had Betsy seen it too, only to collapse before she could flee? The FBI turned to her autopsy, hoping for answers, but what they found would plunge the mystery deeper into shadow. Betsy Arakawa's death seemed simpler at first. Perhaps a stroke, a collapse from shock. But the coroner's scalpel uncovered a darker truth. Her stomach held traces of a sedative, a compound not in her medicine cabinet. It wasn't just any drug. Its structure mimicked agents used to cloud memory or dull consciousness, whispers of espionage or coercion. Had she taken it willingly, or had it been forced upon her? Her pill bottles offered no clarity. Her anti-anxiety meds were half gone, far beyond her prescribed. Her body's position, crawling, desperate, suggested a fight to stay awake, but no bruises marked her skin. Stranger still, the bathroom heater had roared for days, baking the room until her corpse began to mummify, obscuring the time of death. Was it an accident or a calculated act to muddle the trail? If Betsy had been sedated first, had Jean witnessed her fate, his heart racing as he realized he was next? The pieces didn't fit, but they pointed to a chilling possibility. Someone had orchestrated this, and Jean's terror was the climax of their plan. In Jean's study, behind a bookshelf heavy with dust and novels, the FBI found a safe, old, unopened for years, yet brimming with secrets. Inside lay yellowed papers, a journal in Jean's trembling hand, and a USB drive labeled Nightmare Files. The documents named names, Hollywood moguls, politicians, tycoons, tied to files stamped Top Secret, Eyes Only. His journal, scrawled in shaky ink, repeated a haunting refrain. They're watching me. I know they don't want me to speak. Who were they? What had Jean uncovered in his decades away from the spotlight? The USB's contents remained locked behind forensic walls, but a leak whispered of revelations that silenced even hardened agents. The safe hadn't been touched post-mortem, its lock intact, its secrets undisturbed. Had the intruders missed it or sought something else? The FBI's tight lips only stoked the fire. Jean had held something dangerous, something Hollywood, or beyond, wanted buried. His death wasn't the end. It was the spark of a reckoning. Jean Hackman's life was a symphony of triumphs, Oscars, Globes, roles that defined an era. From the French Connection's raw edge to Unforgivens. Quiet menace, he'd woven himself into cinema's fabric. After 2004, he'd retreated, penning novels of war and history, his mind as sharp as ever. Santa Fe was his curtain call, a stage without cameras. Yet his influence lingered, a beacon for actors chasing authenticity. Now his death cast a pall over that legacy. The estate's relics, phones, pills, a truck's ghost, hinted at a final act no script could contain. Was he a hero who'd stumbled onto a truth too big to tell, or a man caught in a web he couldn't escape? His films would endure, but the mystery might redefine him, a legend whose last scene played out in darkness, not light. Jean Hackman and Betsy Arakawa didn't just die, they vanished into a narrative without an ending. The FBI sealed the estate, the safe's secrets clasped tight, but the questions lingered like smoke. What had Jean seen in those final hours? Who drove the truck, wielded the phone, dosed Betsy with shadows. Was this Hollywood's hand or something deeper? A government's fist? A conspiracy's breath? The desert keeps its silence, but the story doesn't rest. Somewhere the truth waits, buried in Santa Fe's sands or locked in a vault beyond reach. Jean's life was a masterpiece, but his death was a riddle, a curtain that fell too soon. What do you think lurks beneath? A coincidence of age or a secret Hollywood would kill to keep? The stage is yours. Share your thoughts and let's chase the light together. Subscribe for more stories.